So Margaret, I'd like to, take up the next topic with yourself. And a bit like what we discussed there, as the pace of migration to SaaS solutions and the monthly recurring revenue model continue to grow at pace, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the types of incentive programs that vendors are introducing to try and win partner mindshare, as that transition happens. So yeah, I'd love to kind of get your thoughts on that, Margaret, please.
Great, thanks, Kenneth. So I think before we start talking about the types of programs, we need to make sure that before you start any program, right, you want to have a clear strategy about what your end results are going to be, or what the desired end results you're trying to achieve. And I think Sunny had mentioned this earlier, that another important aspect of it is your measurement, right? What success looks like. So before you go into anything such as an incentive, you need to have that strategy and the definition of what the success looks like. Once you've got that, then you can sort of start moving into the desired behaviors that you're trying to obtain from the partners and their staff, whether it's a training or attending a webinar, or whatever the behaviors are that you're trying to do, to determine what level of mixture of incentives you want to include in that incentive program, whether it's a spiff, whether it is a points-based, whether it's a rebate, because each of those different types has a different impact on the behavior in the organization.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's really interesting, Margaret, because I think your first point there is really critical. Everybody is trying to change the model. Some people are trying to run the same incentives and expect it to work for the new model, and it typically doesn't, just based on the payouts alone. But one of the points you made there around incentivizing training is fairly common, and especially when you're moving to new products and into the cloud, the SaaS solutions, I suppose. It is a different sales motion, it is a different offer, and you do have to get the partner salespeople up to speed on it. So I do think that level of incentivization to get them to buy into it, because partners that are trained in your products and go to that level or that trouble will be much more loyal to you, than the ones that don't, I suppose. So how, Margaret, just kind of digging into that a little bit more, what types of incentives, or how do you see that? What kind of success rates in doing that type of training work? Just purely from a strategic point of view, how do you go about doing that?
That's a great question. In my previous experience at previous companies, it was a lot of trial and error, but what we found was being able to sort of track the trainings that everybody takes was definitely helpful, so that you could properly reward the partners and their sales reps. And then, so that's definitely one of them. We also actually found, again, in a previous role, that sometimes points worked better than an actual dollar payout. And it depended on the partner type that was motivated by that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I suppose the key takeaway there, Margaret, is it's like anything else in life. No matter what you're doing, you got to sit down and say at the start, what is it you're trying to achieve? What are the behaviors you're trying to incent? Or sorry, what are the behaviors that are going to drive that achievement? And that's what you need to ultimately incent. And I do think that's really important. I know it sounds obvious, but sometimes people do jump in and start to try and apply the same as they had before, but it is actually a different world. You do need to look at your incentives, and training is obviously one element of that. I think another big one is the actual revenue, because there is I've heard it referred to as the SaaS chasm. If people are selling on-premise solutions, and I'll just use a crazy number, they might have been getting 100,000 for a deal 2 years ago. That now could turn into something like a 5K a month recurring deal. That's a very big drop off in business for a partner, and that's part of the reason we see a lot of consolidation in the partner community, some partners just don't want to go on that journey. Basically, they'll finish out, and thus back to Sunny's first point about the referral or influence programs. Those types of partners have a lot of in customers. You know, it's still worth reaching out to them and keeping those in customers, you know, being loyal to you basically through that partner. So I think there's a lot of moving parts to it, and you definitely need a well thought out strategy to move to get the partners across the line into the MRR model. Okay,
Right.
super. No, thanks, Margaret. Okay, so I think, Brenda, we might be taking another poll before I move into the next topic.
We will. So just kind of in relation to kind of your strategy, here we're going to ask, how often do you adjust your incentive programs? Would it be monthly, quarterly, annually, or never? And obviously, of course, if you don't run incentive programs. Okay, results are coming in there, and I see a number of people have already sent in questions. So thank you for that, and we will get to those at the end of the panel discussion.